In the 1990s, well, through today, Nickelodeon completely took over children's entertainment. But like a lot of things in this business of show, there's a dark side, an extremely dark side. Something so dark that it's hard to talk about. But we're gonna talk about it.
In March of 2018, Nickelodeon announced that they had ended their working relationship with television production company Schneider's Bakery, and by extension, founder and owner Dan Schneider. This ended a run that started in 1994 with the groundbreaking children's comedy program All That, and carried through The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Kenan and Kel, Zoe 101, iCarly, Victorious, Sam and Cat, Henry Danger, Game Shakers, and The Adventures of Kid Danger. Schneider helmed the golden era of Nickelodeon, and the shows he created and produced are among the most popular in the channel's storied history. The list of careers sparked by their involvement with Dan Schneider's work spans comedians like Gabriel Iglesias and Neil Brennan, as well as Nick Cannon, Kenan Thompson, Ariana Grande, Amanda Bynes, Vanessa Hudgens, among many others.
Did somebody hit your brain with the salami?
Dan Schneider was the absolute king of Nickelodeon. Every popular show, everything you laughed at, he was involved in. In case you were wondering, yes, he's that weird fat dude from Better Off Dead. He was even in the show Head of the Class and even had a part in Kenan and Kel. But maybe he had a little bit too much power. Well, absolutely he had too much power. And, well, I think we all know what he did with it.
In 2021, it came to light that the separation came partly as a result of an investigation by Nickelodeon's parent company, Viacom-CBS, that found Schneider was verbally abusive to his coworkers. Dan Schneider, for his part, defended his management style and attributed the parting of ways as a natural end to an unreasonable schedule. Outside investigations and accusations during and since Schneider's prominence have painted a picture of a man unfit to have authority over children. Jeanette McCurdy, who performed under Schneider in iCarly and Sam and Cat, offered the most direct, if not damning, criticism of Mr. Dan Schneider in her 2022 memoir, titled I'm Glad My Mom Died. In it, she adds herself to a long list of people who have accused Dan Schneider of being emotionally abusive. She recounts that Dan Schneider complained about the child cast of iCarly being too wholesome, after McCurdy refused to drink from his alcohol-spiked coffee. She also writes about being afraid to ask him to stop an unwanted shoulder massage. Schneider was also said to have frequently requested massages from female employees. McCurdy also recalled an instance where Dan Schneider insisted upon photos of her in multiple bikinis from the wardrobe department. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to say how much of this was necessary standard practice. Jeanette McCurdy's pressure to perform for Dan Schneider accumulated in a Vine post where she donned disarrayed makeup and literal trash and called him out by name.
Hey Dan Schneider, I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. Look what you've done to me.
McCurdy says in her memoir that she was offered $300,000 by Nickelodeon in hush money to stay quiet about her experiences on set. And actor Drake Bell, who faced his own legal issues in 2021 concerning alleged involvement with an underage fan, is rumored to have made the same offer. In a since-deleted tweet from 2022, he offered stories to a publisher of McCurdy's book, Simon & Schuster, that will, quote, crush an entire network. An anonymous source alleged that Schneider would host pool parties for established and prospective child actors without parent supervision. This same anonymous source recounted an audition process that included children in private rooms with producers. The source said that the children were made to remove their shoes and showcase their bare feet. which aligns with the larger narrative around Dan Schneider's alleged disturbing obsession with children's feet. That's right, children's feet are a common focus of Dan Schneider's shows. There are numerous examples where the gag or the focus of the shot centered around feet. And some of the worst examples are scenes from Victorious, where Victoria Justice has ketchup poured on her feet. Another really weird one is where Ariana Grande tries to suck her own toes and pour water all over herself, but there are plenty more examples from Dan Schneider's run that will, make you ask a few questions. Zoe 101 actress Alexa Nicholas alleged that Dan Schneider would offer money to the child cast members in exchange for pictures of their feet. And there was a marketing stunt from the Sam and Cat Twitter account that invited children to send pictures of their feet to the studio. He posted promotions from his personal account to draw attention to scenes featuring children's feet as well. Alexa Nicholas said on another podcast that Schneider would sit on the other side of a thin barrier during wardrobe fittings for underage actors, including herself, and he would ask if he could keep reference Polaroids from the children in their costumes. That could mean anything, but, because of everything else, you have to wonder. Alexa Nicholas, through her Eat Predators movement and channels, is one of the few first-hand voices speaking out against the sexual abuses that were allegedly inflicted upon the Nickelodeon child talent. She led protests in person at Nickelodeon Studios in 2022 and 2023.
So yeah, this foot stuff in all these Dan Schneider shows, it's very weird. If you just see one foot one time, you don't necessarily think anything of it. Because when I see a foot, I don't necessarily think anything weird. I just think, oh yeah, it's a foot. Sometimes foots are funny. Feet. Yeah, sometimes feet can be funny, they stink. Yeah, it's classic comedy, but when you see all this stuff put together in a YouTube creepy compilation, it does make you wonder. This is me wondering.
In. Out. Duh.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our Joblo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Not all suggestive content on Dan Schneider's shows involved children's feet. His shows were full of innuendo that was supposed to appease teen and adult audiences. But much of what appears on the show has been criticized as taking it more than a bit too far, especially with children involved. Other examples include young Jamie Lynn Spears having slime squirted on her face from a syringe on Zoe 101, and allegedly people behind the set were making inappropriate jokes during this. There was also an episode of iCarly where a 14-year-old Miranda Cosgrove gets on her knees and a water fountain squirts into her mouth from a distance. Of course, if this was the only example, we could have just laughed at it as a silly little joke. But since there's so many other questionable examples of this, it just makes you wonder. And young Ariana Grande was a common target of exploit. In the slap segments, a 16-year-old Grande was made to hold and shake a suggestively shaped toy, as well as pour all that water all over her chest and face. These, unfortunately, are only some examples of many instances of Dan Schneider pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable in children's programming, while exploiting child actors to do so. And like I said, if there was just one or two examples that could have just been a mistake or a misunderstanding or he just wasn't thinking it through, but taken with the rest of his alleged and some confirmed behavior, unfortunately it is easy to assume that Dan Schneider is, a creep. But is he a criminal? Seeing as how there hasn't been any criminal prosecution to date, it seems that he at least maintained plausible deniability when it comes to directly physically harming children. So yeah, Dan Schneider, he kind of became the poster boy for the dark side of Nickelodeon, but he's not even the worst of it. What's actually more difficult to deny is that Schneider and Nickelodeon employed confirmed predators, granting them access to vulnerable minors, and perpetuating a culture of abuse.
And this kind of stuff, it's not new. Like, child stars from the silent era suffered from this. And even Corey Feldman, he warned us about it, and many people mocked him. Like, I think it was Barbara Walters or somebody, one of those people on The View, they looked at him, they looked him straight in the eyes, and they were like, how could you ruin an entire industry with this story? That's the reaction? That's why this was able to continue. Yeah, just because the motherfucker was in the Goonies, you're not gonna believe him? Just because it's Corey Feldman? Just because, like, he was still a human, he was still a child. He didn't work for Nickelodeon, did he? No, he was too old by then.
And it's widespread?
Oh yeah. I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded.
There was another documentary that exposed all of this back in 2014. I believe it was called An Open Secret, but this one, you know, it was banned, it was blocked. You were called a wacko if you watched it and believed it. Like, I was one of the people that watched it, and I was like, hey, y'all, I think there's a lot of messed up stuff going on behind the scenes of these children's shows at Nickelodeon, and all I got was kind of an eye roll, you know? But now that it's on Investigation Discovery, these stories are legitimate, even though there was, you know, legal documentation that this stuff really happened. But that shows you the power of this controversial subject. Maybe people don't want to talk about it, maybe people don't want to think about it, or they're actually trying to cover it up. No matter what, it was a taboo subject, and letting that taboo control how we speak to each other only allows this to continue.
Jason Michael Handy was a production assistant on All That and The Amanda Show. In 2004, he was convicted of lewd acts on a child, distributing sexually explicit material by email, and child sexual exploitation. These disgusting charges stemmed from Handy sending naked pictures of himself to an 11-year-old and molesting a 9-year-old. He is said to have met both victims on the set of Nickelodeon shows. Jason Michael Handy was arrested again in October of 2014 on charges of indecent liberties with a child and sex offender registry violations. So yeah, this f***ing monster just kept being a f***ing monster. And this f***ing monster was behind the scenes of some of our favorite shows. And he wasn't the only one. Brian Peck appeared on episodes of Dan Schneider's produced shows All That and The Amanda Show. You might remember him as that stupid pickle guy. In October of 2004, he was convicted of lewd acts against a child, and oral copulation stemmed from an incident that occurred in the home of a Nickelodeon child star, where he was acting as a dialogue coach. And of course, appropriately so, we went years and years without knowing who his victim was. And because of a 2024 documentary, 20 years later, we learned that it was actor Drake Bell. That's right, Drake Bell has since come forward as the victim in this case.
This kind of stuff happens at schools, at churches, at camps, the Scouts, children's TV shows. Predators hunt where the prey is. So that does not necessarily mean that these industries are evil. Like, I know there are amazing people out there who just want to make really good children's programming. Like, they just want to make the world a better place, and they think that their tool to be able to do that is through being involved in a kid's show, a cartoon. There are people out there who just want to bring joy and laughter to children through the art of cinema and television. These people, they actually want to do good work for children, but unfortunately, the places they work have been infiltrated by mother-f***ing pedophiles. I'm sorry, I mean minor attracted persons.
What they call MAPS, minor attracted persons.
But Nickelodeon is not alone in this controversy. Of course, Disney is involved too. This f***ing pedophile Brian Peck appeared on the Disney Channel show The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody within a year of his release from his 16-month prison sentence, and has continued to work in the industry as an actor and dialogue coach. Disney hired a known pedophile. There was also Martin Weiss, a manager for child performers who appeared in iCarly. He was convicted in 2012 of 2 charges of oral copulation with a child under the age of 14. A child under Weiss's management told police that he had sex with Weiss at least 30 times. The victim risked another encounter with Weiss and secretly recorded a conversation with him as evidence for the police. The victim and police believe that there were likely multiple Weiss victims. It's important to keep in mind that these types of perversions don't develop overnight, and the likelihood that the triggering event for an arrest is an isolated incident is very low. It could be that the powers that be at Nickelodeon and Schneider's Bakery didn't know about the dangers they were inviting into their sets, but frankly, it is their responsibility to know. It's also the parents' responsibility, and these grown-ups need to protect these children that they're in charge of.
Nickelodeon was a place that taught us that it was okay to be silly. In fact, it was encouraged. It taught us that childhood is a very special time and we should make it as fun as possible. And Nickelodeon was also able to teach us lessons. And in a strange way, it's still teaching us lessons as adults, but this time, the lesson is that we need to protect our children.
The culture of abuse at Nickelodeon extends past Dan Schneider's purview. The creator of the Ren and Stimpy show was accused by 2 former employees of grooming them, starting when they were as young as 14, and sexually harassing them as adults. He was alleged to be in possession of child pornography and admitted to having a 16-year-old girlfriend when he was 42. There was also another person, Azel Ethan Channel, who worked at Nickelodeon Studios as an animator despite already being registered as a sex offender. In 2005, he enticed 2 boys to the studio, where he showed these children pornography and attempted to engage in sexual acts with them. There was also Mr. Justin Smith. He worked as a post-production editor on animated shows for Nickelodeon, including The Fairly Odd Parents and SpongeBob SquarePants. He was convicted in January of 2001 of lewd acts with a child under 14 and other charges involving minors and the internet. His arrest was a result of a sting by the show To Catch a Predator, actually.
We had a lot to talk about, you and I. Why don't you just have a seat right there, please? Okay. I need you. No, seriously. You're going to want to talk to me.
There is no greater evil than what has been done to these children. And it's the parents, the judicial system, the entertainment industry, Nick and Disney that allowed these monsters to thrive. But it doesn't have to be this way. Things can change. We just have to be comfortable calling them out and actually punishing them and eliminating the taboo. And you know what? Saying, F your precious 90s nostalgia. Like, these are children. And trust me, I'm like the #1 90s nostalgia guy. This breaks my f***ing heart. But you know what? That has nothing compared to the real pain, the real tragedy, the real horror that happened here. Whether you like or believe this documentary that just came out on Investigation Discovery, who cares what you think about it or not, it's got the conversation going. Now maybe some parents will think twice before just shipping their babies off to Hollywood. And yeah, making documentaries, doing things like this, investigating it, doing real fucking journalism, making movies, that's a good first step. Speaking of movies, has anyone seen Fargo? Remember that wood chipper scene? Things have gotten so out of hand that there are now conspiracy theories out there with people saying that Nickelodeon is a tool of the devil, of Satan himself. And yeah, I know that sounds outlandish and ridiculous, but when things this horrific happen in real life, you cannot blame people for resorting to that kind of answer. So whether it's true or not, whether Nickelodeon is a tool of Satan, it actually doesn't matter because the damage has been done. People believe it. And in a way, that kind of makes it true. Unfortunately, sometimes this is the only answer people can come to when trying to understand these situations. It's as if something pure evil is living in that slime. Like, a lot of this is so disturbing, so outrageous, that people are digging deep and looking really hard, whether it's true or not. Some people are saying that, Epstein Island is in the same shape as the Nickelodeon Splat, and, it's just kind of a fucked up situation that you can't straight up say, no, that's not true, because the stuff that has happened behind the scenes, we were saying, no, that's not true. It's blurred the lines between conspiracy theory and truth and just horrible tragedy. Like, we can't fucking think straight anymore because of this. Like, the foot logo is one thing. Like, I'm totally open to thinking that, yeah, maybe there was some sick pervert behind the scenes going, yeah, let's make this foot our official logo, and then we'll, do our little perverted giggle. Because it's happened before. Disney put naked people in the Rescuers movie, the penises in Little Mermaid. It's not outrageous. It's not uncalled for to suggest these things. It's so sad.
I'll see you in hell. Okay, see you there.
The revelations surrounding Dan Schneider and his pedophile friends and all those other allegations within the Nickelodeon network have sparked important conversations about the treatment of child actors, abusive workplace culture, and the boundaries of acceptable content in children's programming, and just how sick and dark and hurtful some people can be. Well, not people, monsters. Real monsters. I hope no pedophiles work for that show. While the allegations against Dan Schneider have not led to criminal prosecution, they have shown a spotlight on systematic issues within Nickelodeon and Disney and the entertainment industry as a whole. Actually, Dan Schneider is gonna be suing the makers of that documentary, claiming that all this is bullshit, so let's see. Stay tuned.
And you know what, even though I've said this before, I really hate when people say, that ruined my childhood. Oh my god, I can't believe that actor did that. That ruined my childhood. Or, oh, I can't believe that show did that. That ruined my childhood. It didn't ruin your childhood. It didn't. Your childhood was good. And it's partly because of these children. And I'm so sorry that these adults failed you. And I'm so sorry.
The voices of those who have spoken out against abuse and exploitation must be heard. Jeanette McCurdy must be heard. Alexa Nicholas must be heard. Drake Bell, he must be heard. Shit, even Corey Feldman must be heard. And the brave, anonymous victims that helped bring these f***ing monsters to justice must be heard. Well, they didn't get that much justice because, they're out and working, drawing little f***ing cartoons for us.
I'll watch some TV. It'll help me to relax!
It sucks that you can never look at these shows the same way again. I want to watch the end credits of a movie or a TV show and not have to play Spot the Pedophile. I want to play Spot the Artist, Spot the Entertainer, Spot the Humanitarian. How nice would that be?
But yeah, hopefully all these brave young people, these brave child stars who spoke out about their experiences can and should serve as a catalyst for change. The good kind of change. It's critical for networks like Nickelodeon and Disney to prioritize the well-being and safety of all individuals involved in their productions, especially children. This includes implementing robust safeguards, fostering a supportive and respectful workplace environment, and holding accountable the motherfucking pedophiles who do their motherfucking pedophile shit. By addressing these challenges head-on and working towards a culture of transparency and accountability, we can strive to create a safer, less evil entertainment industry for future generations. But as of right now, if you want my advice, I say keep your kids away from Hollywood.
So now, whenever I see some Mickey Mouse ears or some green slime, a little voice inside my head screams a simple yet powerfully elegant "F*** you, pedo."